The Dam. What a place. Endless museums, aggressive cyclists, incredible food and scenery, and so many random fun things. Let's start with me checking into my hotel room and being welcomed with some Stroopwafels.
Okay, so I'm so tired right now. It's 4:11 here in Amsterdam. I've been up for over 12 hours on about 3 hours sleep. So I've been waiting to get into my room since about 11 this morning. And when I checked in, the guy said that they include these cookies for free.
These things look absolutely dynamite.
Okay, I am back in Amsterdam. This is my second time. Similar to London, my last time here was March of 2019. So it's been 6 years. And when I first got here, I remember coming out of the train station and it just brought back all those memories of the last time I was here. One thing that I love about Amsterdam is the architecture of all these canalways. I did a canal tour the last time I was here. I'm not going to do it this time because it's already been checked off. One thing I forgot is how dangerous it is walking around this place. You have to be on alert for cars, people just riding bikes everywhere. I feel like everyone who lives in Amsterdam has a bike. It's kind of similar, I find, to the mentality in Vietnam, where it's just kind of like when you're a pedestrian, you just walk, and for the most part, the people with bikes avoid you, but they are pretty aggressive, so you have to pay attention. Another quick thing about Amsterdam is I am sniping a ton of great restaurants. First, the Dutch pancakes, classic apple cinnamon, they were phenomenal. For dinner last night, buncha, Vietnamese. As soon as I saw that on the menu, I said, yeah, I'm getting this. And then today I just had some phenomenal Mexican, authentic, small beef tacos. It was a family-run place, Mexican family, incredible. So there is a lot of good food in Amsterdam if you can make the effort to look the places up before you go. You can find a list of some things and then make an educated pick. You'll be pretty happy with some of the food that you can find here. Yesterday I did the Dutch Resistance Museum, which focuses on the Dutch resistance movement during World War II. Even someone like me that is very educated in World War II, I learned a lot yesterday. For example, it's easy to forget how the Dutch colonies in Indonesia and in the Caribbean played a role, and then how the people that are from there were kind of in this fight where they didn't like the Dutch because they colonized them, but at the same time they also didn't like the Nazis, so they were kind of fighting against multiple ways. Just learning about the impact on people that were from faraway islands, how they were impacted by the war by virtue of being a Dutch colony, it opened my eyes up to understand how the struggle for the Netherlands went beyond just, for example, the main countryside. For some people that were living in the Caribbean, the U-boats were sinking their ships. It was Curacao, there was an example of that. But point being is people around the world were affected by this war. And then today I did 3 museums. So I started off with the Van Gogh Museum. It was excellent. I'm not big into paintings and artwork and stuff, but it was cool seeing how, from a timeline perspective, his style evolved as he matured as an artist. So it was cool to listen to how his environment kind of shaped that evolution and just see him progress to when he tragically took his own life. And then I think it was called the Moco Museum. It's a modern art museum. That was pretty wicked, especially there was this light display in the basement that reminds me of Team Lab planets in Tokyo. So that was pretty awesome to see that. And then lastly, before having a nap, I did the Rijksmuseum or whatever. I'm probably gonna mispronounce it, but it's the main museum here in Amsterdam. It's amazing how many cool things there are to do here that I didn't have time to do last time. But that museum is massive. They have so many different collections. You could be there for a week looking at everything. So I was there for about 2 hours. I did the highlights tour and then the Rembrandt tour, and then after that, it was time for me to have a nap. I had been walking around museums for 5 hours.
Check out this blow dryer. This thing's rad. I've been using the same paste for years. And now that I've started to see what people in the group are creating, it gives me ideas of how I can tell stories through my content from the trip. Even though when I shot certain videos or whatever, I didn't necessarily have the story in mind. It also teaches me, though, moving forward, how I can kind of foreshadow and think potentially about an angle that I want to talk about, or more story that I want to tell, but for now, we'll work with what we have. Okay, that looks good. I feel like going home is always one of those bittersweet things where this trip has been life-changing for me, and it's filled with so many memories that I am just never gonna forget. But at the same time, it'll be cool to see my family and friends again. And then tell everyone about my trip 15, come on, more times over than that. Also, I just want to show my beautiful room that I got here in Amsterdam in the Port Van Cleve, I think, hotel. Just take a look at the big window doors back there. Let me show you this sweet view that I get from the room. It's the Royal Palace. I just love being able to look out my window and just see Amsterdam architecture. So yesterday, I went and I did the Rembrandt house, which is where he lived, and did a bunch of his paintings. That was awesome. Then I did the street art museum, and I'll tell you what, as someone who's recently fallen in love with street art and graffiti art, it was so cool. It's definitely worth the short ferry ride over to go check out. I was only in there for about 45 minutes, but just to being in there and taking it all in was awesome. Then I went to AMAZE, which was a highly interactive and immersive 3D AV experience. It was pretty awesome. Trying to get back on the bus after was a disaster, but luckily I was able to get off the bus. So it was one of those things where I could see that the traffic wasn't moving. I knew that getting on the bus was a bit of a gamble. I talked to some local students and like, yeah, it might not be the best move. I had a split second to make a decision. I decided to get on the bus and try it for one stop. About 3 minutes in, I realized I had made a mistake, but I wasn't that far from the next stop. But I was still on the bus for probably about 12 minutes at least. And then thankfully the bus driver started letting people out. And as soon as I saw that door open, I took that window of opportunity and I got the hell off the bus. And I ended up on this 45 or so minute walk. Beautiful Friday afternoon in Amsterdam. I ended up in this park that I never would have been in otherwise. I got to walk through all these residential side streets that were super quiet that I never would have seen otherwise. Amsterdam is such a beautiful city to see outside of the normal tourist, red light district kind of areas. There's just so much to see and do here. I love this place. When I left for my trip, when I was standing in front of that mirror, I told you that I knew that this trip was going to change my life, and I just didn't know how. That picture is a little more clear to me now. For example, from being on that creator group trip, just seeing how hard everyone works, how far behind I am in some simple things in terms of gear. And I don't mean super expensive cameras and everything, but just from the setup of editing software on a computer. For example, they're all on Macs. I think I'm gonna go back to Mac. It just seems like it'll be more seamless in terms of transferring and everything from my phone. So that's something that I'm probably gonna end up looking into sooner than later, so then I can start producing some of my video work from the trip. But I hope to somehow come up with a big picture message that I can share. And I don't know how I'm gonna do that yet. I can tell that this trip has given me even more confidence. As I said yesterday with that fiasco with the bus, I made the best of it. I made sure that my mindset stayed positive, and it allowed me to have a good rest of my night. I had some good ramen. I met this guy, Eli, from Chicago. We shared a meal together. So many of the content creators have the same mental hurdles and same mental struggles regardless of how far they are in the journey. And it's given me a sense mentally that I belong with all of them. I know that I have talent that can allow me to succeed in this field somehow. And I've just started to see with some of these instinctual projects that I kind of have, I just got to run with them.
Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. 3.5 weeks, 4 countries, and a lifetime's worth of memories and new friends. Now, it's time to head home.
All right, Euros 2025. This is me officially peacing out from Amsterdam on the way to the airport to fly home. That was the thrill of a lifetime. It's highly addicting. I feel like I'm already now just wondering what's next. All right, let's go to the airport and get home.
Well, I started this journey with the camera on, and I finish it with the camera on. This is me actually coming back home now for the first time in 3.5 weeks. Oh. Everything looks okay. No leaks, no floods. Well, here I am. I'm back. It was one hell of a journey. I'll tell you that for free. I actually feel pretty good coming off that flight. I slept, I think, for like an hour and a half. So I think I should be okay adjusting to the time. We'll see. I try to stay up as late as I can. It's 3:07 right now. So for me, it's more like 9:07. It doesn't feel like 9:07 though. It's a beautiful day. So honestly, I think the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get changed and I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna figure out what I'm doing for dinner. When I got home from Asia, it was like, what's next? Whereas from this trip, it's like, what's next? But I have much more of a direction. So it's hitting a lot differently. To be honest, I can't wait for the next adventure. I mean, that was just the thrill of a lifetime. I can't believe, I mean, honestly, it doesn't seem like it took me that long to get home. I'm gonna have a lot more content from this trip coming. I'm gonna need some time to wrap my head around everything, but this is me home. I'm gonna get changed, as I said, go for a walk. I find that it's best to exercise when you land, especially from a long haul flight. I think that just sitting around is not good for you after sitting around for that 7 hour something minute flight. So it's been fun doing this, but I'm gonna keep it going with a lot more shit.